Welcome to our Dissect direct selling webinar. At Dissect, we focus on the core competencies of expanding uh, direct selling companies into new markets, especially into Europe. Also, cost and structure prioritization and optimization of costs. Crisis management is a big focus of ours. Compliance and getting companies the right foundation to be working in the proper way in these markets, as well as incentives of all kinds in direct selling and multi-level marketing. We consider ourselves to be enablers. That means that our resources will come in very, very hands-on, support your organization with whatever it is that needs to be done, so that in the future your sales can grow faster, you'll be more profitable, and you'll be better protected against potential problems in the future. Basically is from us, you learn from our experiences in order for you to be able to succeed in the future in a greater way. My name is Mark Biderweed, and I've been in direct selling in the corporate world for 33 years, 6 of those in single level and 27 of those in multi-level marketing. I was in Europe and responsible for the activities of the world's largest company in Europe, and then I was also in Asia Pacific as the regional president for Asia Pacific and a member of the Global Strategic Steering Committee as well during that time. During this webinar, we're going to focus on crisis management, and we're going to have a webinar on each of our topics here coming up in the coming weeks. Today, crisis management. You're going to hear 7 different statements, and I'm going to ask to even take a pause, maybe even hit the pause button, stop, think about it, reflect a little bit on how these statements might be holding true to your organization that you're responsible for right now. And I'll mention those as we go along the way. So first of all, crisis. What is a crisis? It's a difficult or a dangerous situation that needs serious attention. And if it's not at the C-suite, if it's not what's keeping the executives of the company up at night, then it's just an important project, right? And it doesn't need the crisis management urgency. But if it is a crisis, and if it does have C-suite attention, and you're listening to this and you're part of a crisis, then potentially your job's at stake as well if it's not handled correctly, or the future of the company could be at stake as well. And that's something that is really serious, and that's why it's called a crisis by definition. With us at Dissect, between the 3 founders of Dissect, we have over 90 years of experience, and the examples that I'm going to give you right now, today, are all real life examples. And as they say in the movies, the names have been changed to protect the innocent, right? I'm just going to talk about these crises, but they happened. And if they happen to us, they can happen to you. So listen carefully and think about whether or not you're protected in the right way from these kinds of risks. And if you're not, send us an email or give me a call, and maybe at Dissect, maybe we could bring the resources and our enablers to you to help you take care of these issues before they become a crisis for you. I know we can save you millions. I know that we can save your reputation. And I know that the right protection in place will also give you the best possible sustainable business health that you can imagine. Had we known back then what we know now, that would have been the case in our area of responsibility as well. So benefit from our experience if you'd like to. Try me. Give us a call. See if you like what you see. If you watch this video, if you watch this webinar to the end, then we're going to give you an unprecedented offer. As the Godfather says, we're going to make you an offer you literally can't refuse if you're in a crisis situation. So stay tuned and see if you like what you hear along the way, and if you like the offer we're going to make you at the end. Number 1, every single crisis has a warning. Earthquakes, volcanoes, issues in manufacturing, every one of them has a warning. Sometimes they're seconds, sometimes they're weeks. In the case of a very well-known airplane manufacturer, those warning signs have been there for years and not heeded. And the question is, are we listening to the warning signs? Are we hearing them? Do we have procedures in place so that they're escalated as they should be? Or are we ignoring them because we like the sales situation that we're having right now and we're just going to turn a blind eye? Every crisis has a warning. So here's a couple of examples, real life examples. Product compliance. This example is vitamin supplements. Could you imagine a situation that you're responsible for a $120 million market? 40% of all of your sales are vitamin supplements. And in 3 weeks, every single product is taken off the market. Why? Not because there was something wrong with the product itself. There was never a danger to the public because something was not manufactured correctly. They weren't registered correctly in the marketplace. And there were mistakes on the labels. And guess what? The local authorities had been sending letters. First, there was a letter of inquiry. Hey, can you please fix this? It ended up in the trash can. Then the warning letter came. Then the second warning letter came. And then the final judgment came that said, since you haven't answered us, now we're going to take you to court and we're going to cease the sale of all of these products. And that's exactly what happened. It took months to get the production line and the production of the proper labels and the registration back into place. We lost our field trust. We had issues with qualifications. You can imagine the amount of problems that we had here, all because the warning signs were ignored and the proper procedures were not in place for the right people to see that things were happening in the company that needed to be addressed. Then there's disaster recovery. This example, multi-week long systems crash. Germany needed a new IT replacement system that handles all of the orders, all of the order management, into your bonuses, paying the bonuses, you name it, the entire order management system needed to be replaced. Like most multi-level marketing companies, our peak season is November and December. Our top leaders urged us, warned us, begged us, don't go live in November and December, you're going to kill our business. We said, we got this. We went live in November and it crashed. And there was no replacement backup possible because everything else had been turned off. There was no way to go back. It was a point of no return. We had to get the new system up and running. It took a couple of weeks. We lost sales. We lost trust. We lost qualifications. We hurt people. We had to put packages in place to protect people's qualifications. Although we weren't making any money, we had to pay money to protect the people in their qualifications, and so on and so forth. We lost all the credibility. Why? Because there was a warning, and we didn't pay attention to the warning. True stories. Then there are crises that are a little bit more contained. And if they're not handled properly, they get out into the public, or they get out into the staff, or they get into the field. But if they're contained properly, then you can manage them much better. Resource restructuring. Every company goes through some kind of restructuring as they're growing or as they're looking at cost situations and things like that. You have experience flight. You have to work with the staff and work with HR in a proper way so that your rock stars aren't leaving you because they think that their job is in jeopardy. Right? Because if those people do leave, then you create bigger problems than you ever would have had you just not even done the restructuring. Executive behavior and the threats from staff that create stories, create situations. Blackmail. I've personally been blackmailed. Wonderful situation to handle at home and within the building, within the company, when you're blackmailed for something that is just created. These things have to be dealt with. Where do they come from? It comes from communication. It becomes because people are finding things in the trash and getting access to data that they shouldn't have and things like that. These kinds of situations need to be managed very, very carefully, and it takes the same pathway forward. It takes the same steps and procedures to handle crises so that they don't become something that is uncontrollable in the future. Now there's nuances. There's nuances that are specific, because what I just mentioned to you, that can happen to any company, any institution whatsoever. There are nuances in direct selling and multi-level marketing that also pose threats to us. Taxation, for example, taxation of events and incentives and your participants, because it's value in kind if it's just an event. If it's a proper meeting, it's not. It's a business expense. But you have to be aligned. You have to communicate. Your distributors and your field representatives that are attending to these events, it's actually value in kind if they're participating in an event. Everybody knows this. Except when you don't know that there's an expense in the first place. because the proper accounting hasn't been done in the first place within the company, because we weren't up to speed on what the local tax laws are concerning incentives. Every single market in the EU has a different approach to these things. Now they're getting more aligned over time because they talk to each other, but it's an issue. And it's an issue even then, true story, when the local tax authorities come and demand 3 years of bonus payments to be given, and they take all of those bonus payments and they send them throughout all of Germany, and they do back checking to make sure that the distributors who were participating in these trips actually had these trips listed in their taxes. And if not, they had to pay the back taxes on the value of the trip that they participated in. Were there warnings? Our external auditor said, hey, this could be an issue in the future. There were warnings. These things caused more than chaos within the distributor leadership that were participating in events. Rightly so. Major leaders that go to these events, they work their keisters off day in and day out at these events. It is a working event. But when the same event that they want to claim as a business expense, rightly so, when the same event is on the internet, in social media, and all they show are the celebration evenings in a wonderful atmosphere in Malta, well, the tax advisor, or the tax authority, excuse me, is not going to believe that it was a business trip. So these things have to be aligned, and the right messaging and the right documentation and whatnot has to be available. Something you don't think about when you think about crisis management, but it's a big deal when your distributor leaders have to have literally tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars paid in back taxes because they go back 7 to 10 years. Iconic leadership dependency. It's something that you need to think about, and as your company grows in size and grows also in age, the founders of the companies, direct selling companies, normally were on the streets and in the living rooms and building the businesses themselves. And when they move on, for whatever reason, and they hand off the businesses to their next generation, the next generation typically hasn't done the same work as their parents had done, which increases the dependency on your iconic leaders in the field. And those people who have built the businesses and built the organizations and built powerful and earned tons of money and learned in a powerful way how to motivate people and how to train people and how to bring people and make them successful. But how dependent are we then on these iconic leaderships? If they decide at some point to move on, if they get coerced to go to another business opportunity and take their organizations, what is the underlying risk if we're dependent on these iconic leaders? What happens if an iconic leader goes rogue? What if there's a behavior that just can't be changed, that is unacceptable? We had a situation, true story, Eastern Europe, including Russia and the Ukraine, where a distributor leader was responsible for somewhere in the direction of 25% of the entire business. And we had meeting after meeting to address behavior issues and things that were popping up. And guess what? We could not make progress on a solution here. And so we went up the chain of command. We made sure that everybody was in. We took all the decisions. We followed our processes and made sure that all the way up to the owners of our company, that everybody was informed what was going on. And we had the discussion to part ways and terminate that distributorship. We had no idea what the impact was going to be on the top line, but we put a contingency plan in place. We talked with the other leaders of that particular organization. We notified them what was going on, told them transparently why, and guess what? He went to another organization and we didn't lose 1 single % of our sales because we saw that there was a potential crisis coming. We took the right steps, and we were able to contain something that could have been catastrophic for the sales for Eastern Europe, and then that didn't happen. By design, field behavior, multi-level marketing. By design, one of the most beautiful things about the business is that it's a business for everybody. No matter where you come from, no matter what your education level is, no matter what your experience levels are, no matter what, if you work hard and you invest the time and the effort, multi-level marketing can be a success space for everybody. And in that, also is a true area of risk. And the training and education programs that need to be put in place are a huge part of risk management because you have to own the message. The second point that I want to make, the second point that you have to take a step back and think about in terms of your organization is if the company doesn't own the message about the products and the business opportunities, the field leadership will fill this void. Is that what you want to happen? Or do you want to own the message about yourself and your own business opportunity and your products? Super key. Once that genie gets out of the bottle, it's going to be really, really difficult to get her back inside. External attacks on reputation, these things can come from anywhere. In the mid-90s, we were attacked by Scientology. They said, "You are all Scientologists." They had newspaper articles about us that we were Scientologists. We're like, why are we Scientologists? We don't follow the teachings of Ron Hubbard. We're normal people, we're normal business, right? We're a multi-level marketing company. But at the time, 1% of the population in Germany were Scientologists. So by design, if we have 100,000 people in our business, you know what? Yeah, some of them were probably Scientologists. And that's okay. As long as they're not using one single business situation to promote religion or anything else, or a business opportunity for that matter, as long as you're just doing your business, it's a free world. You do what you want. It's okay. So we had a two-step approach to solving this issue. And this could have really exploded on us. First is we changed our rules of conduct and we made a very, very clear rule that says just what I just said just now. You cannot use this business situation, any meetings whatsoever, to promote any religion, any other business opportunities, or anything else for that matter. All right? You talk about our business and our business alone at these events. Full stop. Second, we got a cease and desist against the lady who was charging us with the things, and we got her to shut up forever, and that was it. But it was a huge potential crisis that really could have cost us had we not been able to deal with it the way we did. Government challenges. Government challenges. We had a crisis in the UK that a lot of people have heard about. It started with very small, simple consumer protection agencies that were scattered in different towns, had warnings, had questions, things were happening here and there, and those little warning signs, those little pieces of paper of inquisition were not being handled correctly. It ended with the Department of Trade and Industry. In the United States, that's the equivalent of the FTC. The UK Department of Trade and Industry took out a lawsuit against the company to wind it up. And wind it up is an English term that means to close you down. And that's a big deal. And 63 days it took us to relaunch the company. That in itself was a milestone. But we did everything possible to protect the good name and the reputation of the people who were doing the business the way they should. $7 million later in legal fees, we won. We won. But it took that long, and it was a 2-year fight, all the way to the top, downtown London, High Court. But we won. $7 million because we didn't listen to the warning signs that were happening in those little consumer protection agencies that were happening in those little towns when we should have. Our single best defense is a really good offense, which means proactive initiatives throughout our business, a holistic approach to protecting our business. In our private lives, without even thinking about it, we put things in place to protect ourselves from crises all the time. We protect ourselves and our families, airbags, smoke detectors, alarm systems, insurance policies, you name it. We do things automatically to protect ourselves from something that might happen. So what are we doing to protect our multi-level marketing business and our direct selling businesses? Are we leaving things on the table that we should be considering right now so that we don't need that airbag or that alarm system in the future? Exponential growth is a wonderful thing when you're paying bonuses at the end of the year. It creates a lot of excitement, but if you turn a blind eye to exponential growth, you could have issues. You could have big issues. Crisis avoidance is the best form of crisis management in the first place. If you're a startup, or if you're a multi-level marketing or a direct selling company that is looking to go international, long-term sustainability is a function of the holistic approach that you choose to implement from the start. If you want to talk more about that, give us a call. We'll help you out. Product registration, no-brainer. Product and opportunity claims that are being made in the field. We talked about that. Point number three that I say, take a look and reflect on. In the eyes of the authorities, field activity is corporate activity. Everything that your representatives do, even if they are independent business owners, if they are not employees of the company, what they do in the field is what you did and sanctioned in the field as a corporation. There's no way out of it, and you will fight that battle. You will hear those words used against you in the court of law. I guarantee you, it's my experience. Field rules of conduct, super important. You cannot just copy and paste your local market existing rules and say, oh, they're good enough for global. It doesn't work that way. Every single market you're in is going to have nuances that need to be looked at. You can have a global template, that's fine, it works. Compliance is a big deal, rules of conduct is a big deal, and it has to be taken seriously. Point number 4, executive words and actions must align with reality. If you've got rules in place, that doesn't work enough. You have to have procedures. You have to have some kind of an escalation process in place so that when issues arise, that those things are taken care of accordingly, and that the right people are making those decisions about what should happen in order to protect your business and do the right thing. It doesn't mean you have to terminate everybody by any means, but issues have to be dealt with. And you have to be able, that's the best defense that you can ever have, is that you can show authorities that here are the rules and here are the number of documented cases that we've already done and dealt with. So I'm sorry we didn't work on this one fast enough, but here are 20 different examples where we did move fast enough. And so they'll take that as good enough for now. Self-employment. All of our representatives out there are self-employed, every single market. You think about the EU, you think, oh, it's going to be one size fits all and whatever is good in the Netherlands is going to be good all over the place. Wrong. From country to country to country, how people are registered for small businesses and to be independent business owners is different from country to country to country. That has to be understood. And everything that goes in the domino effect behind that, whether it's taxation or whether it's bonuses and things like that, it all has to align with the local country procedures in terms of taxation and registration and so on and so forth. And the biggie, training and education programs concerning the business opportunity and the projects and the products. They have to be in place. All of these things are part of a holistic approach that I just mentioned. Products, the claims, the field rules, self-employment, fiscal compliance, training and education. They're all part of your holistic approach. Think about it. We can help you with these things if you like to. Crisis management. This is what happens when your crisis avoidance things didn't work or fell short or for whatever reason. Number 5, the difference between project management, good, well thought through project management, and crisis management are 2 things: urgency and the ownership level. This has to, if you're in a crisis, you have to take the ownership as high as possible so those decisions are being made as fast as possible, and the urgency has to be there. It's 24/7. It's all hands on deck. It means you cancel your vacations. You do what needs to be done as an employee, as an organization, to put out the fire and take care of the crisis. So the ABCs of crisis management. And this is not from ChatGPT, this is off the top of my head, and so you can Google this or whatever else you want. You can see if these line up with whatever you find as a source. But know the problem. Understand what it is that's happening. And more importantly, know the source of the problem. Where is it coming from? It might sound like a marketing issue, but actually it happened because of something else that was happening over here. Really understand, where is this problem coming from? You've got to have a spokesperson. You've got to have a spokesperson or a small team that have the authority and the competency and also the presence to be able to stand in front of staff, field, and authorities to make the proper statements. They have to be competent to make these statements with conviction and be trained properly to not beat around the bush, give a credible statement when it's necessary. You have to identify your stakeholders, both internal and external. Who are your stakeholders? Know critical dates. What steps are necessary when? What backstops are we up against here with everything? And communicate to your stakeholders when and how we're going to communicate. It's really important so that your phone isn't ringing off the hook with people who are saying, hey, can you give me an update? Because they know every morning at 8 o'clock there's going to be an email update and it's going to come from Mark. Super important. Number 6, during a crisis, field leaders are adults. Funny, they're adults. So communicate with them as adults. Don't be patronizing. These people have businesses. They have spent years, in most cases, building successful businesses, and now they're in a crisis because potentially not of something they did, but of something that the corporation might have done or not done. It's not their fault. We built huge trust relationships with our field representatives by integrating them into the process itself, not just making them recipients of the communication, but making them part of the communication process so that the organization knew exactly what was going on. We made sure that they were the first ones to know what was going on in detail, not with fluffy white clouds and blue skies, but the real details of what was going on. Gave them proper tools and the right information to help them manage the situation for the entire organization. That was trust as well. They knew exactly what was going on as much as we told them very consistently from the beginning of every situation. If you don't hear it from us, it's a rumor. Don't believe it. Don't talk about it. Squash it out. If we didn't tell you, it is a rumor and it's not true. If you don't hear from us, it's a rumor. Insufficient problems or insufficient communication could be your next reputation issue. It could create your next crisis as well as a result of something that you didn't do properly. You've got to build trust through a crisis. Number 7. Behavior during a crisis will build your reputation, bad or good. And it's going to really depend on how you handle it. Think about your approach to handling a crisis. Is what you're doing and saying aligned with the value set that you promote in your company? There will be stories in the future. The next generation will be talking about how they survived the crisis of when, way back when, and they will be talking about how the company and how they worked with the company together and how we act now, no matter how bad, the reason why we are in the position we are in right now. It's how we work through this together and what we do. And if it's aligned with our value set, then it becomes a powerful tool for communication in the future when the next generation is talking about this in the first place. So with that, I promised at the very beginning that I want to make you an offer that you can't refuse at the very end of this. And so I think that I might be one of the most experienced crisis management executives in direct selling in the past 30 years because of all the things. Every single example I just gave you is real life and things that we had to deal with over time, and many more on top of that, by the way. If you're in a crisis, if you're in a real crisis, you give me a call or you send me an email and I will respond immediately. We will set up an urgent Zoom call and we're going to talk 30, 45 minutes about your situation, and we're going to understand whether there's a fit, whether or not I might be able to support you in solving your issues that you're facing right now if it's a true crisis. If yes, if there's a fit, if we align, for no cost to you, no fees, I will support you. I will, on your travel expenses and accommodation, I will come to your location wherever you are. I will support your efforts until it's done, and we will manage your crisis accordingly. And when it's over, when it's over and you're satisfied with the support that I gave you during your crisis, you send me a thank you card. That's all I want. No strings attached. That's an offer because I love what I do and I know that we can help. If you want to avoid a crisis, you give me the same phone call. We'll have a 30, 45-minute call. We'll see if we align, and we'll come in and we'll help you against a consultant fee, of course, but we'll start to put in those holistic pieces that need to be part of your organization now in order to make the most sustainable business that's out there possible for you, no matter where it is. We'll create that holistic foundation together with you as Dissect Consulting. So thank you very much for participating in the webinar today. It's been fun. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had good thoughts talking about our 7 points, and look forward to hearing from you in a proactive way as opposed to a reactive way. But if it is reactive and you do have a crisis, all hands will be on deck for you. Thank you.